Hey, welcome to the Wonders podcast. I am Retro Loneliness coming back to you with another episode. Today I'm joined by once again by Haley. Hello, Haley.
How's it going, y'all? This is Lion in Cairo. How's it going?
And our other host today, unfortunately, Jared, couldn't make it to this episode, but my dear friend Esteban is here, and he's just as aware and as knowledgeable about what we're going to talk about today as my stepbrother. What's up,
Uh,
Esteban?
I would hope so. Hello. Hey, my name is Esteban, also known as Estecow. Happy to be here.
Sweet, sweet. Now, the first thing on our list talking about today, of course, is all the buzz going on with Deadpool 3. From what I've gathered, it seems like Deadpool is the movie that's bridging the gap between the Fox or the Sony verse, sort of, into the Disney MCU. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say that's right. Just from looking at the trailer, we see Deadpool looking at all the different universes, looking at literally clips from the MCU. So it's setting up like his transition into the MCU.
Sweet. And what about you, Haley? What did you take from this?
From Deadpool, I was more so interested with them bringing Wolverine back into the whole thing because it's like one, they've done a lot with Hugh Jackman and his role in itself, but to bring him into the Deadpool universe and into the movie, that I'm excited for because everybody's been waiting for that. The tandem duo that doesn't really fit but always fits.
And it's just great to see that it's finally coming in because a lot of people were talking about when is Deadpool coming in, when is the Fantastic Four people coming in. And as news has unfolded this week that we've been preparing for this episode, the Fantastic Four movie just got announced, all of the Deadpool press happening. And so it's really interesting to see how this bridge is coming into play. Esteban, since you were following this closely, what is this like synopsis? Like what's happening in this movie?
So what's happening in Deadpool is essentially he gets pulled out from his universe by the TVA. I'm assuming based off of what happened at the end of Deadpool 2, where he uses Cable's time travel machine to resurrect all his friends, which we see in the beginning of the trailer. And then I feel like he ends up getting mixed in with the TVA for altering time. And then somehow I feel like they're going to end up needing him to do something for them to restore balance for everything. So he's going to be going from different universe to universe. And I feel like he's going to he's going to need someone to be with him. So he's going to go with Wolverine because it's like a duo that we've seen in X-Men Origins Wolverine. But since then, we've only seen it teased briefly in the first Deadpool movie, I think, where he like shows up with the Hugh Jackman mask. So I'm really excited to see how this duo is going through like the multiverse and hopefully seeing different versions of characters that we haven't seen in years.
See. I wonder if Loki is going to matter at all in this movie since it's part of the TVA. Or do you think that Loki is after Deadpool or before?
Honestly, I feel like this might be taking place after
After?
because the TVA look different. Essentially everything's the same, but their armor looks different. That could be a sign of just that maybe a little bit of time has passed since then, or it could be uh a little before, but from everything that we've seen, I feel like it's gonna be a little after following the Loki series.
And then moving forward, how do you think the MCU is going to change? Like for either of you two?
So I feel like how I think it's gonna change. I think it's gonna be more focused on these two teams and families that we haven't seen in this universe. So I think it's gonna be like more focused on the Fantastic Four, on the X-Men, and just circling the whole universe around them instead of the Avengers. Just because we're straying away from that. We're going more towards the new Avengers until we build up to the next Avenger movies where we actually have an Avengers team. But this is all stuff that's gonna happen before that to lead into those movies. So I'm hoping for more kind of family dynamics with the teams because that's always what separated those teams from the Avengers is that they're actually like families. So they always have a different kind of chemistry and they're more for each other rather than just to accomplish something.
I see. Yeah, that is something else, man. Especially with the fact that you do have an actual Avengers movie releasing in sometime in the future. All that stuff that happened with the Kang actor. I wonder how influential Deadpool will be to the next Avengers movie.
I honestly feel like it's gonna reset everything. Not to the point where it's like starting from the beginning, but I feel like it's gonna fix maybe a lot of issues that the MCU has been having lately. They've been having a lot of duds lately because of the way that writing has been going on. But it seems like the MCU in general and just Marvel is going into this. They're gonna take their time with their projects and they're just reevaluating their whole process instead of just pumping out projects. It's looking at everything, hiring showrunners. That's a new thing to keep a continuous universe and to keep it coherent, which is something that we haven't really had. We've been so used to just getting new bits of information for hints of new stories and end credit scenes, but then they majority of them don't lead anywhere. So I'm hoping that it strays away from that kind of formula and just goes into actually fulfilling these promises that they're giving us.
I see. And what are your 2 cents on this, Haley?
For the MCU, I'm hoping that with another Avengers movie coming out, possibly including the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, I'm hoping that there's a reset because we all know that there's different multiverses in the MCU. And we haven't seen all of them. And so this could be a way for them to revamp a lot of the stuff that they or that viewers think they messed up on, or possibly even fix something. And so if they go along that route and maybe bring some of the viewers that they lost back, maybe even revitalizing the MCU itself. That's what I hope. But I'm holding my breath for it.
How do you think they're going to revitalize it? Since Deadpool is part of the X-Men character roster for the most part, do you think that Deadpool will introduce other X-Men characters? And if so, what other X-Men characters would you like to have the spotlight?
Honestly, that would be the smartest way for them to introduce X-Men characters because we've seen them do it in previous movies with Apocalypse and Jubilee. And if they were to bring another character into it, I'm forgetting his name, but anybody remember the X-Men that grew playing cards?
Oh, Gambit?
Gambit.
Yes, I need them to redo Gambit. The first one that they did wasn't to the standard that I needed Gambit to be at. Because we've seen him before, but I need a revitalized Gambit.
Gotcha. And what about you, Esteban?
What I'm hoping for is something that's more similar to the animated series, which is something that is also, they also dropped the trailer for. But I want Scott Summers, Cyclops to be in the lead, more focus on him rather than, I love Wolverine, don't get me wrong, but I want it to be more focused on Scott Summers and then all the other character dynamics that they could have in play. More of a focus on Nightcrawler or Rogue, characters that we've seen in the other movies, but were just side characters that didn't really have plot lines going for them. So I want to see those kind of people have more of a role in the universe.
I see. And is there any last... What's up? Sorry, Haley?
My bad. I just wanted to say something on the Scott Summers thing. I agree that we can see more of the relationships part because that is the whole dynamic of X-Men and how they go through their trials and tribulations. I would like to, however, see the hidden characters that they have of X-Men. It is Xavier's school of mutants. So there's a whole bunch of mutants that we haven't seen their full potential. We haven't seen their full powers that they can just dive into. And so like, I would love to see Scott Summers come back and, you know, them diving into love dynamics and hate and love feuds.
But like Jean Grey.
But I'd also like to see some like new characters come out.
I understand that. Yeah. I think when it comes to other characters that I like, Psylocke is cool. I think she's probably up there with one of my favorite X-Men characters. Definitely Cyclops. He's cool for the new X-Men because there's so many iterations of what they could do with the costume design. There's the X-Men where Cyclops is like entirely covered in like spandex or in a suit head to toe, you know, with his head covered. There's the one where he has yellow accents where his hair is showing. And then, of course, they could do an homage to the original movies that released in the early 2000s with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I do wonder how it's all going to play out.
Personally, I'm hoping for an astonishing X-Men look, just like the classic look.
Okay.
I'm wondering how they would do the headpiece on a Cyclops, be able to make that look good. But we've had like little hints at different costumes and stuff throughout the X-Men movies. Specifically, which one was it? Was it Apocalypse or Phoenix? I think of Apocalypse. At the end, that they show up in like their closer to comic accurate suits, and then they just go away with it in the last movie.
Okay. I always thought about Ultimate X-Men as well. I thought the design for Ultimate X-Men is really cool. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Where it's like they're all wearing like black mostly, and Wolverine doesn't have. I think.
Oh yeah.
I think that costume design for them is so cool. And knowing how
I agree.
Knowing how the actors always want to have like screen time, like facially, I assume they could go with something like that, which I think is cool. I mean, they look badass as fuck, dude. But yeah, But, moving forward from Deadpool 3, as it seems like it's releasing this year, what other movies are we looking forward to that you guys think is gonna really make the cut?
One movie that I'm looking forward to, but I'm hoping they don't just completely mess it up because the first one was pretty good, but Dune. Now, I do appreciate that they're taking a good minute on doing the filming and making sure everything's right because it has been about 2 years since the first one came out. And it's not the longest time, but that's a good amount of time to have gone through enough writing and producing to produce a good movie. I'm just hoping that seeing as there's already material for Dune 2, such as the book, that you see some semblance of them using source material.
Okay. I personally am looking forward to Dune 2 as well. Remember I saw the first Dune about 4 times in IMAX because that movie blew me away. Because the last time I've seen a movie, some people just scrutinize it because it's like, oh, it's like an hour and a half, blah 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 blah. Oh, sorry, it's just half of a movie. It's all just setup. Like I think it's still for being a movie that just sets up everything. I think they did an amazing job. Delis Villeneuve or Villeneuve, however you pronounce his name. He's an up and coming named director in my opinion. The set design was perfect. The CGI was astonishing. The casting was just perfection. They nailed everybody down. And although some might say that Timothy Chalamet had his breakout in some other movies, to me, he only started being on the radar after Dune. It's just amazing.
No, I'd agree with that. Dune was definitely his breakout. You didn't really hear about him before this. His name wasn't. You didn't know Timothy Chalamet. You didn't know his name like that. So I definitely agree with you on that. This movie was his breakout movie, and yeah, CGI was spot on. Favorite scene, if you guys can help me recollect this, when the rivals of the Atreides family, his head honcho is in the room. He's talking to him. They're like, "Hey, we're about to attack," and you just see him rise from his chair, and you think he's just gonna stop, and he doesn't.
Oh, the guy that says, "This is my Dune, my Arrakis."
Yes. Yes. That scene kind of just shows the depth of how mental that guy is. And I love it.
Yeah, they're called the House of Harkonnen. I think that's what and then I don't really remember the name of the main villain of Dune. His name is actually, I just looked it up, it's Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. I don't remember who played him but he did also a good job.
So I have yet to see the first Dune. I'm gonna admit that right now. I'm a little behind on my movies. But from everything I've seen though looks amazing, and I can also agree with you guys on this being the movie or the first Dune being the movie that made Timothy Chalamet like a known name, because that's how I heard about him, and I didn't even watch the movie, but that's when I first was exposed to him, and then I started seeing stuff about him more, and he started being in more movies. So I would agree with that too.
Sweet. And then jumping off Dune, is there let's spitball here. What other movies seem interesting this year?
So one movie that I'm really excited for is Sonic 3, just because you and I have talked about this. I am so excited for Shadow and just everything that they've been showing about this movie and not showing. It sounds so promising, and I'm so excited. You got Jim Carrey coming back as Dr. Eggman. Like all the cast that they've been announcing so far, like they have an actor for Maria. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I keep it under wraps, like an Area 51 kind of deal. But man, I am a big Sonic fan indeed. I'm looking forward to the new Sonic movie as well. Shadow is gonna be super sick to see in the theater. And all of the fan reactions and all the media created from the Sonic movie has been hilarious, especially regarding the Shadow game that came out a long time ago for the PlayStation 2.
Yeah. Shout out to that game. One of the best game, or one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah, it's definitely a standout piece for that time, as it is something that I don't think has been replicated before. It's something that hasn't been replicated even to this day. And like, man, yeah, Sonic. It's cool though, because ever since the fan reactions to that terrible looking Sonic that they released in the first movie for the trailers, and then they, God bless their souls, the people, were behind correcting Sonic throughout the entire movie, because their studio actually closed down after that. It sucked. Whoever is making Sonic 3, they're carrying the torch, and it looks like the movie is headed in a good direction, as well as the fact that Jim Carrey is coming back. as Esteban noted. And the most notable thing about that is since he is coming back, one could say that could be his last movie. Maybe they'll make more Sonic movies. It's a trilogy, so it'll be hard to move up from that unless they add Silver. And they just, every movie is just another character. But just, oh my god, it's that chameleon guy. Ah, I forgot his
See,
name.
I do think it's gonna be kind of. I don't think it's gonna end here because we just had the Knuckles spin-off show that just got recently announced and just came out. A trailer came out for it. So I feel like it's kind of the beginning of the kind of like the Sonic universe in live action, and I don't think it's gonna end until we have all these like all the main characters in this. And I hope it keeps going because it's like something that I grew up with, and I know a lot of people grew up with, and I just want to see all these characters together.
I see him. Haley, you've been quiet. Are you more of a Mario fan instead of a Sonic fan?
No, okay, look, I love Sonic, but I was always the Dr. Robot for two reasons. Because crazy robot scientist who has armies of just egg-shaped robots for no reason. And I found his dynamic is crazy. So I love the movie just for the sheer fact that Jim Carrey is Dr. Robotnik, because the man brings so much energy to every role that he brings to the screen. And he is Dr. Robotnik. He is the man who has claimed the title. I don't think anybody else would be able to replace him as Dr. Robotnik if they were trying to, find somebody else, because he smashed that role in the very first one. And so I'm just waiting to see him back on the screen. Like, all right, I'm happy now.
I gotcha.
The hero and the villain back together.
Seriously, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, the way you put that, definitely, as we talked about Deadpool and the MCU, one could attribute the way that Jim Carrey carries the role of Dr. Robotnik or Dr. Eggman so gracefully. One could attribute it to, what is it, that Evans actor? What's his name? Chris Evans, right? I think that's his name. Yeah, he's Captain America. And RDJ, Robert Downey Jr., he's Iron Man. And how everyone just know him for those two. They know those two actors for those roles, and how replacing those actors within the MCU would be hard. Just like how replacing Dr. Robotnik would probably just be just as hard, since Jim Carrey carries an aura around him whenever he takes on a role that's unique to him. And I think, yeah, I'm definitely excited for this movie as well. I remember I saw over at Edwards in the Regal theaters, one of the Sonic, I think Sonic 2. I saw that in I think it's 4DX, the one with all the moving seats. It was something else. Sonic, Dune 2, man. What else is out there, man?
Have y'all heard about Madam Web?
Yes.
We all have.
All right, so got a
watched it?
question. No,
I watched
I'm
it.
waiting. Okay, so please don't spoil nothing for me. Don't spoil nothing for me. But I got a question.
I don't think you're missing much, man.
Are they trying to, because I haven't seen it yet. Are they trying to insinuate that this movie is a part of the MCU or is its own standalone movie?
No. So I think they had even said that it's own standalone movie. They never attached it to any of the universes. I think they wanted to see how it did in the box office before they decided where to go with this universe. But as far as I know, it's its own thing.
Okay, because I'm getting major vibes that they're trying to attach this to the MCU, especially with the name Madam Web.
I would hope not.
I've seen. So Esteban, now that you've seen Madam Web, without spoiling it for Haley or our listeners, what is your opinion on this flick?
Okay, so the way I described it, because I watched it with my girlfriend, right? The way I described it was it felt like a movie straight out of the 2000s.
Like Fantastic Four with Chris.
Yes, it felt really dated, I would say. Following a lot of old school kind of film cliches that existed in the 2000s that were like, you knew you were in that era when you watched those movies. You go back to any movie from the 2000s and you're like, I know when this was made. And that's exactly what it is.
It feels dated.
Yes, I would say so.
Okay.
Just in terms of dialogue, storytelling, CGI is okay. But yeah, I would say just everything reminds me of a 2000 movie. I'm not going to spoil it, like I said. But personally, I give it a 2 out of 5 stars. On Letterboxd. Out of 10, I would say like a 3.
Okay, there you go. Some perspective.
And mind you, because I am pursuing a career in filmmaking, I don't go into any film with any expectations. I don't want to go in hating something or having a negative prejudice against it without watching it myself. And I didn't. I had no expectations going in. But it was just The way it was written, it just didn't connect for me. It didn't hit any of the boxes that you want from a superhero movie. At the same time, it didn't really feel like a superhero movie. Uh,
Okay.
I know it's supposed to follow that genre, but it just felt like a little sci-fi adventure, I would say.
Okay. Would you say that this movie is worse than Morbius or better? Starring Jared Leto.
See, okay, this is another thing. I haven't seen Morbius
It's
because
better.
of what.
That's good.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've heard that it's better. But I haven't seen it just because I'm kind of like a little sour. Like I'm a hardcore Spider-Man fan. You know this. But I'm kind of sour on like them doing all these spin-off movies and not connecting it to Spider-Man, but then in the trailers talking about how it's connected to Spider-Man, but then never following through on that. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier about these end credit scenes not leading anywhere and making all these false promises. And I did get this spoiled from Morbius, like the end credit scene with Vulture somehow being in that universe, and the way he just inserts himself and he's, yeah, I don't know why I'm here, but it's probably because of Spider-Man. It's like, what? It just doesn't make any sense. But from what I've seen in that movie, the writing is similar, like the same kind of. I think they have the same writers actually.
That's funny. And now,
But yeah, you guys should watch it. You guys should watch it for sure.
yeah, definitely. We should definitely watch Madam Web. Yeah. That hard to recommend. Between Madam Web or Dune 2, gotta go with Madam Web.
Mhm.
Now,
See, it's something that I feel like everyone should experience. I would never tell someone don't skip it. I would say watch it just so you can understand where all these opinions are coming from. I do think that I enjoyed it more than everyone on the internet because everyone's like saying claiming it to be the worst movie. And this is a hot take, but like this is not my least favorite superhero movie. I really don't like the first Aquaman movie, and to me that was a less enjoyable experience in the theater than this movie. I won't say I had more fun with this one, but it was also like kind of fun and frustration just because of like where the storyline went and the writing. But yeah, so I don't think it's the worst movie in the world.
I see. Now, is this movie better or worse than Fan Four Stick?
I say worse for sure.
Worse than
I
Fan Four Stick?
I think so. See, that movie, I enjoyed some parts of it, like very little parts. Like I actually like the cast of that movie. And I know that their project got ruined by reshoots and all these things, but and it's very obvious what are the reshoots because everyone looks different. But I like that cast and I like what the original concept of the story is. So I would say I prefer Fan Four Stick over Venom Web.
That's funny. There we have it. Yeah, and then to cap off this segment, I think the last movie where I'm excited for is the next Ryan Gosling movie, The Fall Guy, where he plays a stunt actor. Once again, Ryan Gosling, literally me, is starring in such a great role and in such an awesome movie. What a versatile actor. I'm so excited for that movie, and I know he'll do his best, and I know that movie will definitely entice viewers like me to go see it.
Oh, I'm so excited for that movie. I think yeah, you and I had talked about it. Just everything, the cast, the story. I'm counting down the days to that movie.
Yeah. And then it's with that being said, what moving away from movies, if these movies are so awesome and we would love to have them, that's becoming kind of an issue. You know what's going on with that? What's going on with physical media nowadays?
It's been like a wild kind of topic that's been happening recently where we're seeing the death of physical media happen right in front of our eyes. We've had stores slowly shrinking their physical media sections of the store. I was just looking at this Variety article where it talks about the release of Oppenheimer on Blu-ray, how it sold out and they just never restocked it despite the demand for it because they are completely going away from physical media. I think in the next year they're gonna just completely get rid of the aisles, like the sections for the DVDs. I'm a physical collector. Movies, I have all my favorite movies on Blu-ray, all my favorite games, because if you have something digitally, like yeah, it's more convenient, but you don't own that. And it's like I'll use one of my favorite games as an example. On the 360, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, one of my all-time favorite games, and I had it digitally on there. And basically, after the whole Marvel, they sold their rights to like all the to Disney and to all these companies, they couldn't sell that game anymore. So they completely got rid of it in the stores. You can't buy it digitally. So I had to buy a copy, like a physical copy of it. And of course, that's upselling. People are upselling that because it's a rare item now. So I feel like all the movies leading up to the death of physical media in stores is going to be just like that in a few years.
I gotcha. Do you think movies are gonna go away ever, Haley?
No, I definitely agree with the that physical copies of movies are disappearing more and more because like now with all the streaming apps, you can like download your movies or like even purchase them on Amazon Prime and keep them in a library. So they're definitely trying to get us to veer off from having so many physical copies of stuff, which I mean, I'm a physical guy as well, so I want my physical copy just in case. If I do have a digital copy, I still have my physical just in case. But I do think that we should try to revitalize the physical copy side of things because digital seems like it's too faulty. It,
No, what are you talking? Can you
like
read it?
digital copies can get corrupted. You can lose them. I remember maybe 2 years ago on PlayStation, I had a digital copy that got taken from me, and I had to pay for it all over again. I prefer physical copies.
I wonder how it'll work when it comes to, like how Haley said about things being corrupted online. When it comes to things like also like licenses as well, because sometimes when you own a thing, according to a storefront, sometimes you don't own it anymore. One such case was that we didn't list down is that Funimation Studios, who for some was the alternative to Crunchyroll, was something that they used to distribute anime. Now, people who bought movies off Funimation ended up not having like access to those movies anymore. Or and Crunchyroll, who's buying out Funimation, isn't doing anything about it either. They're not honoring those sales. So it is definitely a shame.
On that subject, streaming services are trying to basically take over the whole cable market with one making sure that like they're releasing weekly stuff, but also they're trying to like how would I say this? They're trying to crack down on like passwords and password sharing and people having their own service. So instead of you and your friend being able to share an account, everybody has to have their own account. Like your friend down the block can't use your account because they're now using location against you. And they're doing like a collection of devices. So say you have already 4 or 5 devices in your house that are set up for Netflix or Hulu. They're going to try to keep it to those devices unless you like take that one off, put it onto another one.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen that as a really big issue for a lot of consumers, such as myself.
Go ahead. I'm at.
Oh no, you're good. You can go.
I see it as a problem for 2 reasons. Why are they trying to micromanage us when they're just making money off of stuff that's already been released? All right. Have y'all ever shared a Netflix account with a family member that lives in another city?
I have, but with a friend of mine actually. And unfortunately, when it came to the Netflix thing, he got locked out of my account because they detected that he wasn't in the same region.
Yeah. Here's the bad part about that. If the person that you're sharing with happens to click it like they're the owner of it, they could lock you out, which happened to a friend of mine. Because even if that's a family member, imagine being locked out of your Netflix account and somebody else gets to use it.
Okay.
You're paying for that. Wouldn't you be pissed?
Hell yeah, I would. I would definitely be pissed. I don't think I would enjoy that, especially for the fact that, hey man, I'm the one coughing up the dough. That would suck. What about
Yeah.
you, Esteban?
Oh yeah, that would make me so mad. And you're talking about password sharing or like account sharing. I have a good amount of streaming services and I share them with my girlfriend. So we'll go half on them or like she'll pay for one, I'll pay for one. So this sucks for us because she lives in a different city. So like at any time they could just cut one of us off. And it makes no sense because Netflix did this too with password sharing at an attempt to get more money and more subscription. And I think that did work in their favor. But in this case, I don't think it will just because a lot of these services, if you're a student, for example, they sell bundles. So it makes it more accessible for people who can't afford a high end or high price streaming. Being able to do that and then being able to share it makes it more convenient. And I don't think it takes away from anything from these companies because they're still getting those views and they're still getting all that ad revenue. They're getting all this stuff. So I don't really think it takes away from their whole platform. And I feel like they're putting themselves in a hole by just taking away account sharing. And it can also impact you if you're traveling. Because let's say you live in California or something, and then you go to New York, and you can't even use your own Netflix account. You can't use your own Disney Plus. Like at that point, why have it?
I never thought of that. How would that work if you are going out of state? and you have a laptop or a phone that you take with you to stream, would you still be able to, or would they block you off because you're in a different region?
I feel like it's based off a location. I think it's attached to wherever the home that you set when you first get the account. I feel like that's where it kind of locks in, and then anywhere beyond that is just it'll just lock you out, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how I would enjoy such things to happen since I use Disney, ESPN, and Hulu. Like I have that whole thing going on, and I share the HBO with my girlfriend, and I use a friend's Paramount. And it all adds up. I pay for the best version of Hulu, and that's like about what, and it's a lot because it has no ads, and then
Damn.
yeah, and then it has and then what is it? I get like live sports and live TV. And then I don't know, man. That on top of paying for Netflix on my own and HBO and Paramount, I might as well just get regular cable.
And at this point, we're literally paying for cable because they're making it more and more expensive to have these ad-free plans. So of course you're gonna go with the basic plan because that's what we can afford. And then it just at this point, yeah, we're just getting cable because we're just getting commercials, but we're paying more in the end because we're gonna have all these different streaming services instead of having one collected one like we would with cable. So I feel like that's like where we're going. I feel like cable might end up making a comeback one day just because of how this is affecting how accessible it is for everyone.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe it might be DirecTV's comeback. I don't see this changing anytime soon, especially with how much people use things like Netflix and Hulu. How do I put it? With people using like needing Netflix so much, they actually ended up having to pay up and having to use Netflix and services that they didn't want to before. Wait, it's just a problem overall. But with that being said, why pay for such services when the shows that they're releasing are just as bad? Like, especially one that Haley is really talking about, the Avatar series.
Okay, so Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm hoping you guys were fans of that show as a child, because it was one of the staples that I loved to watch when I got home, got done with my homework, about to eat dinner. Now, we've seen how they messed up the Avatar: The Last Airbender movie and how nobody liked it. I'm praying that shoot. I'm praying what they said they were going to do with the Avatar: The Last Airbender new show coming out does not happen. Because what was said on Game Rant, they're basically saying that they're trying to change the story of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and they want to make the show more narrative driven and clearer. And by doing that, they want to add a more serious tone to Aang. And then they also want to remove other important parts, such as Katara's feminism and Sokka's not overtly offensive, but offensive masculinity. We'll leave it at that. I'm hoping that they decide not to make the show as serious as they're making it sound to be, because it was never a serious show to begin with. It was a maturation story of a child who didn't want to be the savior of the world into a savior of the world. And so I'm hoping and wanting them to retain the core of the story of it's a 13-year-old kid who is forced to save the world and doesn't want to, but he has to.
When I saw the series, I knew that it wasn't gonna be as good, simply because it was reported that it was only gonna have 8 episodes.
Yeah, yeah, they did say that it was going to be about 8 episodes, and with those 8 episodes, they could all be about an hour, which can probably be about maybe half of the first book. But I was still hoping for a good live action because we haven't seen one yet. M. Night Shyamalan, I wouldn't consider that good version of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I was disappointed when I saw that. Okay, first off, where were firebenders in the original movie, the live action? Why were they not able to produce fire with their own hands? That was a key factor of why the Fire Nation was able to take over the entire world in the animated show. But in the movie, they have them carrying around torches like they need to carry around torches to firebend. What is this? That was one of my main things because how are you going to take the main weapon of the story and how this world power came to be and force them to be in or encumbered by having to use a torch? Because in the original series, the firebenders were able to produce flames from their fist. They could stick their fist out and fire would come out. They didn't need any produced flame. They didn't need anything around them. All they needed was their body, their inner energy, and the intent to firebend. Another thing, what was the princess's name the in the water tribe, the Southern Water Tribe? I think it was Princess Yue. She's supposed to trade her life with the one of the koi fish. I don't believe they portrayed that in the movie, which is also another reason why another important character. It's one of the crucial factors of why Sokka goes from, oh, I'm a man, I need to protect everything, to, oh, maybe I don't need to protect everything because women can protect themselves too.
Yeah, I think the arcs that are in the original animated show are definitely a necessity to show and highlight the nuances that made these characters develop overall. And that's something
Yes.
that an 8 episode series won't ever capture if they're gonna do the entirety of the show in 8 episodes. Or even if they just take care of the water, like the water part, the water season or water chapter, I don't think 8 episodes is still enough. Or still not
It's,
enough. Yeah.
it's just not enough for the Book of Water. Wasn't it like 50 episodes in the cartoon?
Probably just about, yeah. Did you ever
Yeah,
watch the
8
show,
episodes.
Esteban?
Yeah, I did. Growing up, I would watch a few episodes here and there because my brother was he was insane about the show. So I am pretty familiar with the show. And I do also think that taking away a certain aspect of characters, like what they're doing with him, is just, it takes away from the overall character development that takes place throughout the show. So I'm wondering what they're going to lean more towards, like within the narrative to replace that whole arc that they're not doing. Because how else are we going to see this character grow, or is he just going to automatically be the grown version that he is at the end of the series?
See, I see. I've and then they also made a spin-off show after the Avatar, after the original The Last Airbender show. Do you think they're ever gonna do something with that live action?
I would pray that they don't. For the simple reason of there's so much more they can do with the animated universe of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I would want them to do more with that first, seeing as we have so many avatars that they can go to the writer and be like, hey, you have something for another avatar. We've already seen Korra. And then there are rumors of another show in the works, of another animated show for another avatar. I would prefer seeing more animated stuff because it fits the dynamic of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Would you say that they should make an Avatar show moving forward that's outside of Korra and in the past with one of the past avatars, like Avatar Kyoshi, or one in or one in the future?
I would prefer them going to the past because it would allow them to bring the beginning of, okay, I believe the one that they're working on should be the very first Avatar, which is vital and sets up a lot for the Avatar: The Last Airbender story. Because if you know some of the lore of it, the people in that world didn't actually have bending in the very beginning. It was given to them. And it was given to them by the giant dragon turtles.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That kind of deep lore, man, I just don't remember.
Oh, I was a nerd about that show.
That's good,
I was a
man.
nerd about that show. But yeah, so if they were to set up how each nation gets their abilities and like how they went through their tribulations of getting those abilities, I think that would be really cool.
I gotcha. And then, what, besides Netflix having a really bad show like the Avatar potentially becoming reality, what would be another show that you think is releasing with a second season that is also bad, Esteban?
I don't know if you guys have seen the Halo series,
Yep.
like the live action Halo series. Have you seen it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So overall, what are your thoughts on it? Season 1.
I hate it.
Okay. That's valid. 'Cause I do too. Oh my God. I'm like, Halo is one of my favorite, or if not, it is my favorite video game franchise. Infinite, Halo Reach, my all-time favorite video game. Reach. Yeah, and the show does nothing close. what it does is, and this it's doing what a lot of Marvel shows were doing up until now, where they hire writers who have never seen any of the lore or know any of the lore. They're just creating stuff on the spot. And my biggest gripe with the show was right in the beginning. First episode, it started off pretty good. First episode was pretty good until the last 5 minutes of the show, where Master Chief, for no reason, takes his helmet off. And
Oh my god.
from that point on, he, I would say he has it off 90% of the show. The only time he has it on is when he's doing a fight scene. And in the first season, there was a fight scene like every other episode. It was majority dialogue. It was majority side characters who we don't know in this universe, who we don't care about, because we just want to see Master Chief. We want to see Spartans in live action fighting the Covenant, fighting brutes, fighting all these insane characters, and they just went with humans who don't matter to the series. Season 2, I know they were talking about going into the Fall of Reach, and from what I've heard, is that there is more of him in the mask and the helmet, but I am not optimistic at all based off the first season. I never watched the last episode because I was so frustrated with the show that I couldn't get myself to finish it.
I personally hate that show, man. It's the worst shit I've ever seen imaginable. And the creation of the show itself, I think, is just capital sin. That whenever people or like things were told to the showrunners and people behind the script and all that were like behind the actual Halo games, they purposely were like, "Nah, we don't need any of that," and that bugged me. I hated that shit. And with the second season, it's still just as bad because although it looks like they improved on some of the action scenes, and then I guess the lighting from the first 2 episodes that are currently out, it's still the same narrative where there's a bunch of loose ends that in the first season that were never brought up again. And although that could be seen as a good thing, it just, what's the whole point of having this first season then? I could just watch the second season. And then the fact that the Covenant, as maybe has been mentioned already, the fact that the Covenant has human ambassadors or human allies, I think it's kind of acid. Not really something I could get behind. Master Chief should never take off his armor. I think.
That's next in the show.
Yeah, Master Cheeks. And you know who it was? I think, if I believe, it was none other than the human Covenant chick.
Yeah, it was.
It's not only are you sleeping with a human person, which never happens ever, because Master Chief is technically a turbo virgin, because his pussy is the fight, but his quote unquote girlfriend is actually a hologram. And then the chick he's fucking is part of the Covenant. It's what is happening?
Yeah. But they don't understand Halo. That's the thing.
They don't. And they purposely want to stay ignorant to everything. It's like if they were Sony fanboys, but like to the most like disgusting degree where they made a show to shit on the games. It's bad, man.
Can we talk about, okay, I always assumed that, okay, in the video games, we've never seen Master Chief without his helmet.
Yeah.
So I always assumed that it was like the Mandalorians. You take it off, you're not a Spartan no more.
Yeah.
So when I saw him take off the helmet, I immediately turned off the show.
That's
like,
good on you,
bro.
man. Yeah.
See,
Go ahead, Esteban.
I
okay,
couldn't believe it.
there are Spartans who take off their helmets, all of Noble Team and Halo Reach, and that's before all the events of the. I think it's like a prequel, right?
Yeah.
So you see that, but yeah, no, like you say, you never see Master Chief in the games take his helmet off. I don't know if you guys have seen the GIF of Master Chief taking his helmet off in Halo 1 or 2, and he's just wearing another Master Chief helmet under.
Yes.
That's what I think of every time. I'm like, bro, why they tarnished the image of Master Chief by having
They
him be this
did.
random guy. Now you think of Master Chief and you think of this person that you don't want any association with the character because he's not written to be that character.
Yeah, it's
I
like
agree
they're
with you.
giving him the Master Chief role, but he himself is not like the Master Chief, like as you would think of Master Chief. If someone were to be Batman, but they're not technically the Batman, it's like someone standing in for for the real Batman.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with this guy who has the title of Master Chief. He's not the Master Chief. He's not the Master
Yeah.
Chief, man. It sucks. Go on.
Go ahead, Chief.
My bad. And the only time you actually ever get to see his armor being taken off and you get to see some sliver of his face is if you complete Halo 4 on Legendary and you only see his eyes. But even then, it's like, it's so ambiguous to the point where you could still be, I'm Master Chief because I'm playing as in the campaign. I'm finishing this fight. Soldier, hand me a weapon. Yeah, like that kind of deal.
Isn't that the reason why they never show his face? So you feel like you are the Master Chief?
That's what I would assume.
Exactly.
And then now go on.
Them adding a face, it disgraced the name of him being John 117. Because of all the Spartans, that we all know that Master Chief, he wasn't the leader of the Spartans, but he was the one Spartan we knew who was at every fight and never relinquished, never failed, and got the job done. He was like the poster boy of all Spartans. And for me to see a face, even though I've never seen a face before, it felt like a betrayal of trust.
Yeah, I don't understand what's up with studios adapting video games into shows, taking beloved animated shows into like live action and completely butchering everything. You see this with the Avatar show, as we talked. As previously mentioned in other shows, have the podcast or maybe not. I don't remember the Witcher show on Netflix. Completely butchered to the point where the showrunner Henry Cavill was like, "This isn't part of the books," and then he just left. And now you see this with the Halo series, which somehow they're doubling down and giving it a second season.
Do y'all remember the movie that they released?
Are you referring to Halo Forward Unto Dawn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do y'all, okay, in a comparison between that and the first season of the show, which one honored Halo more?
Oh, for sure. Forward Unto Dawn. I think that one did a way better job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think the voice lines are perfect. He was
Yes.
stoic as fuck. You were like, "Fuck, it's the Chief." And then every time, like the fight scenes, he's run around. I'll take her. I'm like, oh. And then towards the very end, when he fights that one big huge dude at the forest, and then dips,
Yeah.
and then like he miraculously somehow, because he's the Master Chief, manages to make it to the Pelican. One of the coolest shots that like takes distinctifies, if that's the word, or could tell this is the Master Chief from this guy trying to play the Master Chief in the Halo show, is when you see all the other Spartans taking off their helmets, and then when it cues to Master Chief, he just looks at you and then he looks back. Because he's all about that fucking fight, yo.
I agree with you. You had two whole Spartans sitting there, helmets off, and they looked like robots. And then you have the Master Chief, is stoic.
Yeah.
He looks at you and, yeah, I'm not taking mine off.
Yeah, he's our guy. Seriously.
No, I will say one good thing about the live action Halo series, and I'm a big fan of when it goes to the point of view shots when he's mid battle and like the HUD of the Halo like games.
Yeah.
I love that doing that. That's the only good thing.
That's the only good thing about that show.
I want it when he masters. If they keep using that, they should do the thing where when he's in a fight and then he's taking some shots, like it should go to his GoPro cam or whatever you call it. Oh, here's
You hear it. You hear the noise.
You hear it, but you never see that. You never see the armor shatter. The energy armor, you never see that shatter, which I wanted.
I would love to hear that noise. Oh, it would be so hard. It would be so hard.
Yeah, they have that noise in there.
Yeah, they have the noise. They just don't have. You just can't physically see any difference. Like when your shield goes off.
Yeah,
Okay.
he just falls on his knee. He got hurt.
And where's it?
Yeah.
Near armor.
And weren't there some shots as well where you see like a Chevrolet Tahoe or something? Like they had like regular guns with AKs and then a Chevy.
Yes, literally.
Yes.
I think in the first or second episode,
When they're fighting the rebels.
they just pull up with it, and I'm like, bro, what?
That shit
I'm
is
like,
too good.
what era is this set in?
Oh man. Yeah, something else, man. Something else. And the state of live action adaptations that are exclusive to streaming services, one could talk about another streaming service where it's imploding. Esteban, all about this. What's going on with WWE?
All right, so what's going on with WWE right now? So there are several things. One, we have, I don't know if you guys are into all that, but you have The Rock coming back, inserting himself into a main event story that has been taking place slowly over the last 2 years and just taking over. And then there was like major fan backlash, and there was basically kicked out this guy named Cody Rhodes. out of his spot that he worked for, and that everyone has been waiting for him to be in that spot. And fans were so upset. If you go through any of the Rock's pages on social media or anything, it's just everyone is just, oh my god, everyone's destroying him because they just are so over him putting himself into the forefront of everything, similar to what he did with like, the DC universe when he was like, Black Adam is the center of everything, and then that didn't do good, so it imploded. And that essentially, I feel like what was going to happen here. But because of fan backlash and they actually listened, they took him out. And I feel like that was only, I feel like they were never going to do that. I think they were just going to keep him in that spot. But because of how upset people were, like, I think that one had over 500,000 dislikes on YouTube. It was like their most disliked video because of how upset people were. You got that. And then you also got all the stuff with Vince McMahon. There's honestly too much to go like super into detail, and it's honestly really messed up. But it's basically all these sexual assault cases that happened over the years that he like paid hush money to get these women that he, did all these things to keep them from saying anything. And then it's them over time just, saying whatever, I'm not doing this NDA anymore. I'm going to talk about what's going on and what happened to me. And then it's like all these other people being exposed in the process who knew about everything that was going on with him. People like Brock Lesnar, who they completely took off basically their history. Like they took off their opening video package, which it rarely changes. Like it changes every 5 or so years, like really rarely, and completely erased him and put all his shirts on clearance. Like they're trying to get out with it. Vince McMahon got fired, or yeah, he got fired, and he got his company taken from him by what is now known as TKO. So it's like the UFC and the WWE are together now. And it's just like this whole thing that he thought that they were buying the WWE, but what they essentially did was just take away his power, and then all this stuff happened and they just kicked him out, completely taking it away. Overall, the WWE has been at a really weird place, but at a time where it's doing like record breaking numbers, and so it's just overall a really weird situation.
Got you. Haley, have you ever been a fan of WWE?
Back in the day when I was like, well, to hear that Vince McMahon is getting hit with sexual assault charges, I'm not exactly surprised by it because he did
He would do that on
pretty
TV.
wild. He did some pretty wild stuff on TV.
He made a girl bark on TV, bro.
Remember when he said the N-word on TV?
Yeah, he said the
Yes.
N-word. He made a girl strip on TV, bro, but literally degrading her, yelling at her while she did it. It was, dude, I don't know how he got away with all the stuff he has.
I don't know how he got away with
He-
any of that.
He needs to, I'm just saying, this fool needs to be in prison. That's just all I'm going to say. Like, it makes no sense.
He said he R. Kelly status.
Dude, literally. Like,
That's
how many things
hilarious.
are coming-
Yo,
God damn.
do you think that the stuff he pulled back then was a necessity for the network at the time for ratings, or do you think that it was completely unnecessary, like pointless and just rude?
No, I think it was personal motives. Like, and a lot of times it would be women who were trying to break through in the company. So they would, obviously he would be like, oh, you want this spot on the card? Do this, or do this with someone else, or do this with blah, 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 or do this with me. So it was just always for something. And then half the time they wouldn't even get what they were promised. So it was just all these, all these things just piling on. So I don't think it was necessary at all. I have always thought that he was a sketchy dude. I've always been like, nah, there's no way. He just looks off. And yeah, literally everything is coming into fruition. Like, it's so obvious, that this guy has like literally something off, like a screw loose or something.
I see. Yeah, I don't. Oh man, yeah, I don't really have too much to say on that personally, as I didn't continue watching. What's funny? The minute I found out that WWE was like performance, I stopped watching because I was so heartbroken. As a kid, but the fondest memories I have were of the early 2000s, like early 2010s, like WrestleMania, WWE, like Raw. Like I remember especially the video games and how much they've been an influence to many people like over the years. And unfortunately, like the video games, just like the company, have been just in a state of erosion as every iteration has been just lackluster and just like shit overall. And it's a shame to see that the state of of the actual WWE company network or series overall is just in that kind of same rate of stagnation. And it seemed like things were up on the come up with the whole Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. And so I hope that Cody Rhodes eventually gets what he deserves when it comes to that fight between him and The Rock and Roman Reigns. Alrighty. Why don't you introduce the next one, Haley?
All right. We've had a lot of games in the past year that have been released, not finished. And I have found a list of them that there were some games that were supposed to be big and just didn't become big because they were unfinished, or they're at the point to where they had a following, but because they were unfinished, they lost it. And my top three from that list, we got No Man's Sky, because I was waiting for that to come out. I wanted to play it. It looks awesome. And it was unfinished. There were points where it would either glitch up or you couldn't complete something because something wasn't there. And then another one would be Fallout 76, because when it was launched, there were so many problems. There were server problems. There were character problems. You try to talk to an NPC and couldn't talk to them at all, or you get stuck in conversation. And so, like, it's really becoming a problem that most of these games that they're trying to sell to us, even like Assassin's Creed Unity, which came out in 2014, still not done. Why are you giving us half-finished games? Why can't we get a game almost to the caliber of Baldur's Gate, even if it's 75% finished? That's better than me falling through the map or me getting stuck in conversation, having to reboot my entire game.
Yeah, I don't know much about what's going on with the state of games nowadays. I think some people might say that the AAA like development studio bubble is bursting with the quality of games being so bad. There's millions of dollars being poured into these games with thousands of people being hired on, and they just release trash. It's insane. No Man's Sky would promise an ordeal of things that you could do, and eventually it was just this thing where you drill into something and then you recharge it by drilling into another thing, and it was just rinse and repeat, and it was just a boring game cycle. It's great though, however, when these games do end up making huge comebacks by entirely revitalizing, changing through updates or DLCs for free packages, etc. With what they did with No Man's Sky, because the game where it started and where it is now is amazing. But it's a shame though, because these are the things that you would have loved to have seen on day one, which is the case with many other games, such as the case with Fallout 76. I remember Starfield also being shit. Terrible. It's not Starfield ain't. It's not terrible, but the problem with Starfield was that it was unfinished. It just used reskinned assets from Fallout 4. Story was really lackluster in ways where you didn't need it. Everything you did where you thought it would contribute to the overall narrative of the story never really did, such as doing the rival faction quests between the United UN, what the people that look like Halo individuals, and then or Star Trek with all that are super futury, and the Freestar Collective, which are these cowboy fellas that splintered off a long time ago. So yeah, it wasn't fun. It was very disappointing. 76 is just a symptom of what I would like to believe is what Bethesda is overall. It's just a shitty company who are known for making the same mediocre games over and over and over.
It's just reskins.
Yeah, they're just reskins, and the engine that they use is still the same engine they use for Fallout 3.
Yeah, it is.
And
I would say any of the 2K game series does that too. Or you look at the FIFA game series, like there's a lot of series that do that. It's just reskins every year. It's just the same engine, and they never fix the problems that everyone has with the game because they just are trying to push stuff out every year or meet their quota. Or Call of Duty, that's another one that's just trying to get something new every year, but never focusing and staying on just one, or trying to continue and do something good and finish a game.
wow. Yeah, is there what other games, what do you think is the symptom or the cause of the game AAA games releasing in such a state nowadays?
Honestly, I think it's because of how flippant game players are today. You have so many kind of angles that people want you to come from. Oh, they want you to make it a hardcore grind game. Oh, they want you to make it a cosmetic game. Oh, they want pay for play. They want all these different things. And it's like countries trying to hit everybody's palate all at once, for me at least.
Yeah, I see that. And then according to that list you cited earlier, it seems Cyber was also there, which is kind of insane because it was such a critical hit among many people that bought it on like next gen hardware or PC, but it was still like very buggy and to the point where they had to remove it from their PlayStation store several months later, according to this list you sent from CVR.com.
If you have to remove a game because it's that unfinished, you probably shouldn't have released it in the first place and it kept working on it. Because think about it. You released a game and you have people wanting to play it. You have people hyped for it. You got people excited for it. You got people waiting for it to come out. Almost the same amount of hype as, the game you just mentioned.
Cyberpunk?
No, the one before Cyberpunk.
Starfield?
Yeah, Starfield. Both of them had almost the same amount of hype and then the same amount of
Yeah, for different reasons, but definitely the same level. Starfield overall was just very mid. The narrative was shit. Not well. I don't want to say
people couldn't play it.
Yeah, people couldn't play it. It was completely like it had no DLSS support. It was missing a ton of things. And then Cyberpunk, unfortunately, ran like ass. It was just poorly optimized, and it was honestly rushed out the door due to the fact that it was definitely under some pressure for sure from the industry, within the industry itself, and from people waiting on it while the game was being pushed to a different release date like many times over.
Yeah.
It's a shame. What about you, Esteban? What's your take on this? Like, why? What's up with AAA games nowadays?
Like same thing. I think it's just them trying to rush stuff out. I do think it is to compete with like live service games, these games like Fortnite that can hold their popularity for so long by continuing to do new things to bring new people back or people back to it. So I do think it's them trying to compete with that by just trying to get their product out as soon as they can. Like an example that I have is Spider-Man 2. I don't know if you guys played Spider-Man 2, but it's about to be 6 months since the release of Spider-Man 2, and they still haven't had New Game Plus. And that was one feature that has been in all the Spider-Man games at launch, and it took months for them to do it. Like they barely gave a release date in March for it. And there's stuff like that. Or another game that I played that had a lot of issues at launch was Jedi Survivor.
I played that one too.
Yeah, so I love the Fallen Order and like Jedi Survivor games, and I have an Xbox, like the platinum for it, so I got like all the achievements. But it literally took me about a month to do, not because it was hard, but because my game was glitched and there was no patch for that glitch, and I just kept running bug into bug so that I couldn't get the last achievement, and I had to keep waiting every week to see if they would update the game so I could get it. And like at that point, it just killed my hype for the game because I just kept trying to redo the story to try to do it. But like the game itself was so bugged that even if you did a new save, it wouldn't count towards that achievement. So you were just gonna be wasting your time.
Do you think that the fact that these games are becoming so technologically like advanced, do you think that's like a part of the reason as to why these games are running so bad nowadays?
I think so. I think it's with the heavy emphasis on graphics and like all these games, like taking up so much storage space. Like it has all these games have a lot going on, and it's like trying to do unique gameplay, amazing graphics, and amazing storylines. But it's like trying to rush out that process instead of taking the time to release a really good product. Like we were talking about Halo earlier. Halo Infinite actually got delayed while it was being made because they showed gameplay of it. I think it was at an E3 event, and the graphics were so bad. It was such a downgrade from the last Halo that the community was so upset that they completely reskinned the whole game and until it looked like an actual Halo game. And there was like a bunch of memes about it. I'm pretty sure you guys remember the Greg meme and like, whatever it was. But yeah, I just feel it's just them trying to release stuff without really putting the care that it takes into releasing a good game that'll like last for longer than a few months, which is something that modern day games have really struggled with.
I
Wow.
definitely feel my bad.
No, go for it.
I definitely feel they're more so thinking for their wallet than think for the consumer because is there's time development and planning that goes into all of this for video games. A year is not, enough time to come up with a great story and program all these graphics and do all the things you want to do to create a good game. Prime example, Skyrim. Skyrim wasn't produced in a year, and it's still one of the most played games till this day.
I love Skyrim. One of my all-time favorite games.
Same.
Too. Top 5 for sure. That's like top 3.
But didn't
Top
Skyrim also
3.
release with a ton of bugs as well? Why is Skyrim still received so positively compared to something like Starfield?
I believe the reason that it's more so received more openly is because even though it wasn't like a fully 100% polished game, it wasn't one of these 50% games or 25% done games. It was majority done. You weren't running into glitch every time you entered a city, or if you were riding a horse or a carriage. You had to look for a glitch. I remember that people had YouTube videos of glitches that they found because it was hard to find glitches in Skyrim. You had to go under the map to find a glitch.
Yeah, see, and I feel like that's a perfect example of a game that took its time to actually be finished. I remember the first time I played Skyrim, like when it first came out, I was like, man, this game is beautiful. I was blown away. And I had played Oblivion a little bit before, and I was like, no, this is a complete 180. And in terms of graphics, gameplay, first of all, that game didn't have fast travel. This was like a huge thing. They actually took their time to make something new and improve on their old formula rather than just keep the same thing and just expect people to feed into it and to just accept it.
I definitely think the way that they do their games is smart, because from Blades to Oblivion and from Oblivion to Skyrim, it's complete switch ups of how the game is played. Because in Oblivion, you're a champ. In Skyrim, in the Blades, you're a blade. They give you the direction you're supposed to head. After that, it's up to you.
The way I look at it is that the way when you saw these glitches back then with Skyrim, they were like a novelty mostly because games weren't so insane with do you need DLSS or AI to make the game run even better. The games were just like done for the most part. Like you had like Resistance, the infamous games. You had Battlefield 3, which had did have an amazing launch for the most part. If we're talking single player games, you had Uncharted, The Witcher 2, Fallout. Those games then were good. But as glitches were excused in Skyrim, and the Bethesda they felt excused to keep making games to that kind of quality. It seemed like the industry also caught up with them, where it isn't just Bethesda releasing games that are with 1,000 billion glitches. It's all of them. And that's to me is why a lot of people are now disillusioned as to why Bethesda is a good company or not anymore nowadays. And then especially with where games that are live service come into play, it's a whole other story where you see games like the Suicide Squad, Halo Infinite, games like Mortal Kombat 1 nowadays, and returning in the conversation, Fallout 76. A lot of these games are now releasing almost half-baked or are unfinished overall, where a lot of legacy fans expect these games to come with a lot of modes, weapons, attachments, or customization options that are no longer present due to the kind of model the game is presenting itself in, which is live service. How has live service changed the way games have been releasing overall?
I feel live service games that are coming out in pieces, Halo Infinite launching without Forge mode, Mortal Kombat 1 launching without crossplay, stuff that they promise. I feel like it just makes the industry think that it's okay to continue to do things like this. They're already talking about the next generation of consoles, and I feel like these consoles haven't even had time to breathe yet. It's not like back in the day where PS3 had literally hundreds of games. I feel like these consoles, while they have been out for 5 or 6 years, a good amount of years, I feel like there's barely any good, like a good library of video games. I feel like they're just so in a rush to get to the next thing that they're not focusing on the now, on the current generation, on the current games that they're doing.
What about you, Haley? Do you think live service is a good thing, a bad thing? Or do you think that we should go to a different model?
I don't see them as good or bad, but I do believe that game companies should stay to what they know. For instance, if you've always produced live service stuff like PUBG, Battle Royales, Apex, those types of things, keep to that because that's what people know you for. But games that weren't live service before and that are trying to adapt to keep up with said companies, they can do other things that can keep them in the game. They don't necessarily have to shift their business model to fit what everybody else is doing because there's so many different types of gamers in the world. Why we all have to go to live service? Because remember, Call of Duty wasn't live service until they started adding the battle pass.
I see. What do you think about that, Esteban?
So I would agree with that, especially with like Call of Duty. Ever since they changed to the live service thing, it really pushed me away from it because I like the older ones like Black Ops 2 and all these games where it's like you felt like you were getting everything. And while there was stuff that you can purchase for the games, like DLC, it was just like maps, it was just cosmetics. It was nothing like that made the game feel like it was incomplete or released incomplete. So I do think it's a little detrimental to the industry, and I feel like it's setting everything back a little bit because it's just like it's gonna keep happening more and more because it's what's popular, right?
Yeah.
For me, when it comes to a system that they used in Black Ops, I remember like Battlefield 3, like it was
Unreal Engine, right?
no, like what quite a monetary system. Like we have live service. I remember we had like does it the drops, the random ones. I forgot the loot crates,
Oh,
rates, and then before then you had Battlefield 3. What they did is they had a premium pass. What did Call of Duty have when you wanted to buy all the DLCs together?
they would just have a season pass.
Yeah, there you go. You had
Yeah.
season pass.
Yeah.
And then nowadays, it's crazy how we've lived in a time where you've seen models change throughout the years, and now we're stuck with live service. Like how the way I see it is like live service is like this attempt to create like the next big hit because technically Fortnite is like the golden goose where they could just leave the game and then it'll like people will play it indefinitely as long as you sprinkle in a couple new skins every season. Yeah, and then in a
Add
new
a new
map.
map,
Yeah.
game mode.
Right, and then that's it, right? And then they just did this huge thing where they released like 3 other modes. You know that they got Lego, which is something that they're trying to take which to me seems like an attack on the player base, or they're trying to encroach on the player base that is Minecraft. You have the racing mode, which is an additional thing for people that love karting games like Mario Kart. You have the Guitar Hero mode, which is something that a lot of people have been asking for a long time, for many years. Not for Fortnite, but for a new installment in a game in
Yeah.
that genre. And then, of course, you have like the Battle Royale, which is like the serious staple. Just to see other games try to be like, wow, we need to be like this game, has been, I think, a kind of like a tried and done trick already, where you see like games even to this year releasing with a battle pass. Like you have the Suicide Squad releasing with a battle pass. You have the Halo Infinite multiplayer releasing with like multiple seasons with different battle passes, which I do think, I do think the best parts, the what I would commend Halo Infinite for is that the battle passes that you don't finish or you never got to purchase don't exactly go away.
Yeah, you could always go back and get them or go back to do whichever one. I love that. Every game should do that.
I agree. Like, which is a shame because you see what they did with Halo Reach before with the level of customization. And it's just a shame where you don't have that level of customization anymore for free. You could kit out your character so badass looking in Reach for the multiplayer, which in my personal opinion was like the best part about Reach, aside from the story. And you don't, and then when it comes to the Halo Infinite multiplayer, you have to buy a lot of the things you would personally have available to you in Reach are just some things that are locked behind paywalls for 10, 20, even 30, $40, which is, I think it's a big contrast to what we once had. Yeah. I personally, I blame it all on that horse armor from Skyrim. People are like, this is what happened. It's like the whole point of we were once like amoebas in water and now we have to pay taxes. We once had shit for free, but then horse armor, and now we have Fortnite Battle Pass. And just to cap off the episode, it is always a good thing when games release with content evolve, that it's always really ever releasing content. And unfortunately, the bad side of it is that these games sometimes do come unfinished, but at least they're allowed to release. In some cases, like in the with the Insomniac and the new Wolverine game, the game, what looks like to be like footage of the game has already been leaked. According to IGN, hackers breached Marvel's Spider-Man developer Insomniac, and they threatened to release confidential data unless they were paid in 50 Bitcoin, or which is about $2 million a week. Otherwise, they would release a ton of confidential content that was set to be released for the public at a later date, or as things that are on the drawing board.
Yeah, so it wasn't even so like they showed a lot of games got leaked. Like we got the Wolverine alpha gameplay got leaked. We got information about the next Spider-Man game leaked, which was gonna be like a multiplayer game. We got a Venom video game that got leaked, like all this stuff. And not only that, but it was a lot of personal information from employees from Insomniac, like their addresses, like all this personal information, just because these hackers wanted money when the company themselves were like, we're not going to give you anything. So yeah, it really is hard to watch. Obviously, you try to respect these companies and you try not to like look at all the stuff that got released because you don't want to like betray that kind of that bond you have with them. Like when it's a good company, Insomniac, because I love Insomniac. So yeah, it's just hard to see. I am excited for the next stuff, but I just wish that we saw it when they wanted us to see it, not just when these people decided that they wanted to release it.
According to the IGN article titled "Inside Hackers Released Legal Those Future Projects and More," they stated that the data release included a slide that revealed the Insomniac's upcoming games list. In those games, the planned games were Venom in 2025, which personally, I've always wanted a Venom game. What we got with Spider-Man 2, I think was awesome. I would love more of that. Marvel Wolverines in 2020, Marvel Spider-Man 3 in 2028, a new Ratchet and Clank in 2029, and Marvel's X-Men in 2030, with a with an untitled new IP in 2031-30. Along with that, another slide showed an extended roadmap that included multiple X-Men games and a second new IP that would have released in 2035. Another slide detailing Insomniac's multiplayer ambitions, including a Spider-Man 2 online mode for 2024, a Wolverine online game for 2026, X-Men Online for 2028. And, a ton of different things that could have made, the list or not, that unfortunately we're not getting anymore. What was something that got your Esteban? You know it better than I do. What was the game or game mode that was shelved, unfortunately, due to the hacks?
That was due to the hacks. See, I think it was the Spider-Man multiplayer game. So it was gonna be like a multiverse kind of online game, and they had a bunch of concept art that got released. But they said basically they were like, "Nah, we're not gonna do this anymore." And I'm pretty sure that was because of the hacks, because of like the leaks that came out. It was just information that they didn't want people to know about that just took away from what they were gonna do. That's why it's like things like this are only gonna affect these companies like and like their releases negatively. Like it does no good. Like to get just for all this information, like it does no good.
Yeah, it's a shame. What do you think what are the ethics behind this, Haley?
For the hackers, there are no ethics. They just went for money. But for the companies, now they have to redo a lot of the stuff that they had planned because of a few knuckleheads who had no ethics. Makes me disappointed, to be honest, because okay, so you said there were a couple games that were supposed to be released like next year and the year after that, right? That means now the company has to reap if they're going to release that, and then if they're not, if they've already done work on that's them almost wasting money. If they're not going to release it, they have to hold on to it, and if they hold on to it for too long, it won't be viable anymore. Because as we all know, technology is always advancing. It's always evolving. And they have to rethink everything that they were previously considering, like launch date and how much money is going to go into it. And if actual gameplay was leaked, if they're going to leave that in or if they're going to recut that. And honestly, it sucks for the companies ethics wise, because now they have to think about the player and be like, all right, do we want to give them something that's already been leaked to them, or do we want to trash that and redo it?
Yeah, it's a lot of things will happen between both the movie industries and the video game industries. And with that being said, I hope the best for Insomniac. And the one thing I gotta say that's notable besides the Marvel stuff is I hope the new Ratchet and Clank game is a banger, because I have been excited, been waiting for a new one to be released. The last
I
one,
love Ratchet and Clank.
yeah, Ratchet and Clank was great, man. I remember the PS2 days and the PS3 days, peak.
Dude, what is it? Up Your Arsenal? Goated.
Going
Going Commando, bro. Oh my god. Bro, okay. Deadlocked? I love Deadlocked.
Deadlock was great. Did you ever play Size
Dude.
Matters?
Yes.
Size Matters. And then I remember the co-op one, which was All for One, which was 4 players.
I did not play that one.
Dude, I actually did play that one, and man, it was fun. It was so. It's until more to come. With that being said, this is the end of the episode. I'm Retro Loneliness, or Nicholas. I was here joined by.
This is Lion of Cairo.
Sorry,
Go ahead, bro.
You go first, Aiden.
Yeah, you
Okay, this is Lion of Cairo, or Haley. Nice to see y'all once again.
And
And this is Esteban, the cow. And thank you for having me.
of course, and to many more. With that being said, this has been the Wanderers Podcast. I'll see you guys in the next one.